welcome to Final Fantasy Weekly. I'm Drew Kreisman.
And I'm Ira Kreisman.
And on this episode, we continue our conversation on Final Fantasy VIII. When last we left our heroes, they were succumbing to their second Dream World sequence, as Zell called it, because Zell and Rinoa are the two that got left behind, and Rinoa has no idea what's going on, and Zell only has kind of some idea of what's going on. They've gone to the Dream World, he said. Which, you and I were, last episode, giving Final Fantasy VIII, I think, some well-deserved criticism for perhaps playing too coy and being too mysterious about character motivations and things that didn't necessarily need to be. This mysteriousness and not knowing what's going on is done perfectly. So,
I agree, because the characters acknowledge it and give it a name.
Right.
They may not be entirely accurate, but at least it's, oh, yeah. And then actually Kiros and Ward and Laguna are going to give it a name also at some point, which is interesting.
Yeah, I love this element of this game. Probably, I think I've said this before, this is definitely my favorite part of Final Fantasy VIII. Well, that and the beginning and the ending. But of the story as it goes, every time we get into the Laguna stuff, it'll never not be endlessly fascinating to me. So we pick up with the Dream World characters that we knew from before, Laguna, Kiros, and Ward. Different place, different time, presumably. We're really not given much in terms of context of when or where this stuff is happening. Now, last time we knew they were in Deling City at one point, which is going to be interesting once we get there in a little bit. But for now, we just see them kind of out on this big cliff overlooking a really strange-looking building. And by this game's standards, the Timber station, or the TV station in Timber looks like a spaceship.
Mm-hmm.
So, this, by contrast, looks far more like a modern, mechanical, for those of you that are familiar with Horizon, that has, the cauldrons, which are kind of based on military bases that we actually have out here in Colorado, built into the mountains and stuff. It looks like that.
The fact that is real and not a science fiction thing is so weird to me.
I know, right? Yeah.
So Ward asks whether or not we're sure this is the right place, and Kiros says, oh yeah, absolutely. And Ward says something that I think is fantastic. He says, I don't want to be patrolling the wrong place like last time.
There's a whole story there, isn't there?
And one that we don't really get into, but it says a lot by saying very little, because they both kind of look at Laguna, and Laguna's like, sorry, this isn't the place. Kiros calls him commander, and let's get going, and Laguna takes out the map, and I think I brought the wrong map somehow.
We were giving the Timber Owls a bunch of grief for not being the smoothest running operation, and I got to say, I appreciate the sort of mirrored theme of Laguna, Kiros, and Ward not always being on top, or anywhere close to the top of their game. And
you're given a couple options here of how to respond. Either, oh no, that was just my imagination, or yeah, I have a bad feeling. So if it's just my imagination, he says, nah, everything's cool. Hey, make sure you guys are fully equipped. We are on duty after all. Let's get a move on and check things out.
Sure.
Everything's fine. Just make sure you got your weapons ready. And then if you go the other way, he says, seriously, I have a bad feeling. There's something
feeling about this
fishy going on here. You know what the old folks say? The unfamiliar always happens. And Kiros says, you mean unexpected,
right? Sir.
Either way, make sure you're equipped and let's move out. And they're at this weird mining excavation. You know how sometimes the monster fights in Power Rangers happen at a rock quarry for some reason?
Yeah.
It's sort of that, right?
Yeah.
It's this weird mining operation.
And when they get up closer to it, it gets weirder and weirder.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, they even remark on it. It was like, this is really strange. There must be some natural rocks here, he says, used for carving tombstones? And it's like, wait.
What?
The hell what does that even mean? But whatever. So as they approach the facility, they are accosted by a new vocabulary word.
They are, yes. Well done.
Laguna introduces the concept here. He says, it looks like we've got company Esthar soldiers.
Yeah, what does that mean? And have we run into this word yet?
No, I don't think so. Maybe
Right.
if we'd been poking around in the library, but certainly if you're just kind of playing through the story, and in our television retelling of it or whatever, right? This is the reveal of the concept of Esthar.
Yeah, it's they're peculiar uniform. They're like skin tight uniforms. It's like a
Star
superhero
Trek
costume.
Like a spandex. Yeah, they look different, don't they? Again, even compared to how weird the rest of the world is, they're very set apart.
And the way they move, sort of like noodly and lanky, reminds me of that character Voldo from what was that?
Soul Calibur.
Soul Calibur. Yeah, it's deliberately off-putting, I think.
Yeah.
They're doing it on purpose. Again, this is an artistic choice. We were talking last episode about how they make choices, and even though I don't understand all of it, I am interested to think about them as deliberate artistic choices.
Right.
And so our heroes here, Ward, Kiros, and Laguna, they're still on the world, I assume, but it's definitely a strange and different place that they're not meant to be.
Right. So you have to battle through some of these soldiers and make your way deeper into this mine where once you get inside, like the rock first turns more green than blue, a little bluish in there, but it's not quite like Mako energy green, but it reminds me a little bit of that feel of going down into the Mako reactors in Final Fantasy VII, except for instead of it being like a glowing liquid, right, it's just these rocks have a shimmer of bright green, again with these kind of hints of blue, and it's really unsettling. And the deeper you get in, then some of them start being this kind of reddish pink color, and like crystals or what. It's again, some of these things I guess you just have to see. They're masters of visual storytelling, and we can't always do the best on this podcast to do it justice, but this is one of those Final Fantasy moments you're like, what is all this?
Right.
So essentially what we'll have to say for now is there's a lot of interesting context clues for things that may be coming later, but like with a lot of things in this game, you can't really parse them on first viewing. And so for the point of what's happening here, Laguna and company end up essentially getting kind of cornered off to the edge of another cliff. So they've gone all the way through this area, come out the other side of the mountain, and the tunnel behind them leads back into the mines, and the only thing in front of them is this cliff with a pretty steep fall down into the water. And the tone of this scene is incredibly difficult for me to read.
It's a little bit, I can't swim. What do you mean?
Oh
Right?
Man, it is a little bit, but like, okay, so this takes me back to our silent movie conversation that we've had, right? Where
Interesting, yeah.
because we're not getting tone of inflection or voice acting or any of these kinds of things, I think some of this is supposed to come off as really funny, but I think it's also supposed to come off as really sad. Like, they're playing it off as though all the battles that they just went through in that mine have taken it out of all of them, right? Like, they're just they're beat to hell.
They're exhausted. They're running away
Right.
from this weird country's weird soldiers.
Yeah.
Ward has been injured. Right, his throat has been injured.
Right.
And they're backed up against this cliff.
Laguna's kind of doing this verge of death. Hey, we're saved, guys. It's going to be okay. Or maybe we're going to die, but whatever. And he's like, it's weird, man. I love it. I don't want the fact that I think the unevenness of the tone here is actually pretty great. Because, well, we're in the dream world, aren't we? And
Yeah, maybe it's a gallows humor. If we're going to die, I may as well make a joke.
yeah. Because Kiros like has this thing about, hey, we've been run down. This is it. And Laguna says, oh, don't say that. Didn't your grandmother ever tell you don't say things, otherwise they'll come true? And you're like, what? He's almost the opposite of Squall here, right? Going back to,
right.
Last episode with Zell, like fishing for encouragement and not getting it. Here, you've got two guys who are basically giving up. You've got this next little bit where Ward is kind of, like you said, he's losing his voice, but he starts to say, like, it was fun, you guys. Laguna, Kiros, it was fun. And Laguna says, Ward, uncool, man. Way uncool to say things like that. Just for that, you're getting the Gucci Gucci treatment. And he starts tickling him. And, like, what in the hell? But I think you're right. This is just like Laguna's gone so far the other direction of, no, I am going to be overly encouraging to the point of denial about what might be happening right now. And then he looks over the cliff and he sees that there is a ship off in the distance. And then Kiros actually calls it, he pulls it true and he calls it a boat. And Kiros corrects him to, it's a vessel.
Whatever. Good Lord.
Now's the time for that. So again, weird things to be going on in this we're all on our deathbed moment. But he says, we're saved. We're going back to Galbadia. And then he decides, all right. And he just grabs Kiros and throws him off the cliff. And then he grabs Ward and he throws him off the cliff because they were barely hanging on. And then he goes, wow, you guys sure do have guts. That is a long drop.
Right, yeah. What kind of Looney Tunes, Bugs Bunny weirdness is this?
It's wild, man. And then even the way he like starts to back up to jump and then he slips and he hangs on for a second and then he tumbles over like totally Looney Tunes. Like so much of this is played for laughs, but it's also leaves us with the possibility here that one or all three of these guys could be dead now. And so like I actually enjoy the unevenness of the tone here. It's something that I think Final Fantasy often can do, and it's one of the things that you want to call it the absurd side or the silly side of the franchise that's always been there. But what a time to employ it. Like, how fascinating.
Right. So if it were me and I were remaking this, or I were writing this scene, I would have Laguna take that sort of... You remember in Ghostbusters where Peter Venkman is cracking jokes as they're facing down this Stay Puft Marshmallow Man or Gozer or whatever? Yeah, it's like, okay, this is ridiculous. This is crazy. I have to crack jokes because I'm about to die anyway.
Right.
So it would be a little more sensible, a little less Looney Tunes. But I do think that's kind of the idea they're going for.
Right.
Kiros and Ward are a little more fatalistic, and Laguna is going to, well, if we're going to die by Esthar soldiers or we're going to die by jumping over the cliff, at least jumping over the cliff, we've got a chance.
Right. Yeah, I could see Tony Stark doing a similar thing, right? Of just kind of sarcastically joking his way through this. It's just that Laguna is like a much more earnest person than Tony Stark, and so Laguna has goofy jokes in the face of death, which, come to think of it, is the perfect explanation for exactly who Laguna is. And I think one of the reasons why people love him so much. Like, this is how he behaves in the face of death. He's just a gigantic goofball. How do you not love that guy?
Which is also how he behaves when he is talking to a woman he likes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when he's trying to be clever or charming to Julia at the bar. Yeah. He's just a big old dork.
So naturally, dreams typically end when you throw yourself off the cliff, right? That's how dreams work. Everybody knows that's how that works.
I wake up before I hit the bottom, that's for sure.
Sure. And so we zap back to reality. Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, I apologize for that. And Zell immediately asks, was it Laguna again? And Selphie, who we know's got a little bit of a crush from before,
right,
says, Sir Laguna's in big trouble. I hope he'll be okay.
And if Squall is lacking in empathy, Selphie more than makes up for it.
Sure. And I love that Quistis is like, so, not your first time, huh? What's all this then? What's going on, eh? And then Squall, this is maybe, again, in my remake and our remake, I might go for a slightly longer conversation here. I don't think you want to belabor the point. And again, we totally believe that Squall would say what he does, which is, we'll just be wasting our time trying to figure it out. Let's keep going. That's a very Squall way to handle it. But I feel like even Squall would want to have a slightly longer... This happens once, sure. I blow it. The second time, I'm sitting down with everybody. Again, even the most pragmatic person in the world would say, all right, we need to talk.
Right. Something is going on. We at least need to compare notes.
That said, I'm not 100% sure what that conversation looks like.
Right.
What is there for them to figure out right now?
and then do what about it?
Right. Which reminds me very much of our father and one of his guiding philosophies of, is there anything you can do about it right now? Nope. Then let's worry about something else. Then
let's have a very nice dinner. How about that?
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah. So Ira, I think this is one of the first major turning points in the A-plot, if you will, that I don't know if it's regularly seen as such. But after all of this has happened, Rinoa runs up to Squall and she says, Squall, I think I may have said too much. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I really like this, actually, because I feel like it would be easy to say Rinoa is behaving like a child. I just talked about Selphie having extra empathy. Rinoa does not live her life in her own head. Every thought she has is voiced in some way. And she's maybe realizing that I could not say everything that crosses my mind. Perhaps, I still think that Squall was wrong to behave in a way that a leader ought not, but maybe I could have said it differently, or maybe I could have bitten my tongue. I didn't need to say that. My mistake. I'm sorry. And I like that. That's a character growth right there in front of us.
Right.
So well done to Rinoa.
Yes. And while he doesn't reciprocate at all, in fact, again, keeping his only reaction inside his head, thinking, forget about it. Like, he's so over it, right? He didn't need the apology, but he got one.
Right.
And I think subtly that begins as like step 1.1 of the softening of Squall Leonhardt, right? Of just somebody saying, of somebody, like you said, it's like she sees him in this moment because she's quite frankly in a lot of ways in the right to call out his lack of empathy. But
Agreed.
As we did last time, I think we went through a whole long explanation of why we understand his lack of empathy. So she's presumably, while he's unconscious in Laguna land, Rinoa is sitting there thinking, maybe that was a little too much for who he is. Maybe I should think about it from his perspective. Empathy, something he's seemingly incapable of. I'm going to use my ability to be empathetic, to think about this from Squall's perspective and say, I might have been coming on too strong. I'm sorry. Brilliant. Oh, it's so good.
Right. So in the same way I was saying he needs to, if he's going to be a good leader, understand what Zell needs. Rinoa is doing that, trying to understand what Squall needs.
Right. Then we get another character introduction, but not the one you're thinking of just yet, because I'm counting this sweeping camera movement, part CGI that then goes into gameplay, visual introduction to the Galbadia Garden as a character introduction. It's wild, man. Like, you see these people in the air in these kind of, if you've ever seen Avatar, the kind of mech suits they wear.
Yeah.
They got jet packs, so they're all up in the air, and these big suits of armor just kind of flying around in formation over the school. Somehow this place seems even more militaristic than Balam did. There's...
Oh, yeah.
It's all in black and reds in its color schematics, and it's intense in its architecture, and man, Galbadia Garden is something to behold. Again, I can only do so much justice, but the camera movements here too, It's cool.
I feel like Sid didn't have a lot of say in how Galbadia Garden was put together.
Right.
And so, yeah, it's definitely a different place. And maybe we'll just get into it now. It like you said, it's much more militaristic. The teacher uniforms are like really intense gym teacher outfits.
Right.
They've all got these caps with the stiff brims, and they've got like gym teacher whistles, and they're having people do push-ups in the hallways.
Right.
It's very yes sir, no sir.
Yeah.
I say jump, you say how high.
Right.
The kind of stuff you see in fictional schools that I hate, because schools shouldn't be run that way.
Right.
Like we're not a military, we're not a prison.
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's intense. It's a lot. I do love this small moment at the beginning as they're walking through, and Zell says, "Man, it's really quiet here." And right, you think of sort of the music, right, of Balam Garden, the hustle and bustle we've talked about, where people are going to and from class, and they're maybe playing games in the courtyard, taking in a game of Triple Triad. Maybe someone's playing music. Some people are rushing late to class and things like that. There's a hustle and bustle about it, and there's just none of that here. Complete stillness. And Squall says, "I like it."
Yeah. So the first time I read this, I wondered if Squall would have done better if he had been here instead of Balam, but I don't think that's the case.
Depends on how you're defining better here, right?
Right.
He might have felt
right.
better, but he never would have become the hero he could be growing up in this place. Yeah.
Sometimes you need some of the resistance or some of the pushback to your tendencies in order to bring out a balanced, more complete self. Like if I were allowed to just be insular all the time, I wouldn't be a teacher, for one thing.
Right.
I would probably spend most of my time at home in the smallest, quietest, darkest place I could find, and just be on the internet or in my own thoughts all day. And there's a certain appeal to that, but I don't think it's healthy.
Right. So what you're saying is that the key to Squall becoming the hero that can save us all is that there had to be enough people around willing to play cards with him to bring out the fun part of his. Triple Triad is the true hero of the story, is what I just heard you say.
I kind of feel like Squall is the guy who I don't like playing against at the local game store.
Oh, totally, right? He's going to take it way too serious.
Intense. Yeah, he's gamed out the meta. He knows exactly what deck to play, not just for the current card environment, but also for like whatever game store he's going to.
Right. Change the rules different.
Ugh.
Anyway, so Quistis says she'd actually mentioned earlier that she knew the headmaster of this place. She reiterates that and says, "Why don't I go ahead, inform the headmaster of our situation, and I'll meet back up with y'all." So that's when, they're kind of wandering the halls and having these conversations. I do want to point out, we try to highlight and discuss whenever we can when Final Fantasy does some diversity well. And without really saying anything about it, there are a couple of wheelchair riders just kind of bombing around in Galbadia, and they've got this like super awesome looking wheelchairs, and I could see some people being like, "Well, isn't it a military school?" But especially in a world where you've got like magic and all of these other things, right? It's such a, I guess, small concept of what a soldier could be. But I thought that was kind of cool and interesting that they've got these like badass wheelchair things that people are just kind of riding around in school.
Absolutely, yeah.
So eventually we're led to a waiting room, and after a while Quistis returns and says, "Okay, they understand the situation, and by the way," she doesn't say it directly to Zell, I kind of wish she would. She says, "Balam Garden is safe."
Right. It's almost I have a thing, but I don't want you to acknowledge it too overtly.
Yeah.
Like, I appreciate you telling me that it's okay, but if you say it specifically to me, I'm going to be embarrassed. I don't want that.
So she says, "The attack on the president in Timber was classified as an independent action. There was an official notice from the Galbadian government saying that Balam Garden is not to be held responsible." So, fantastic news, right?
We can always trust the Empire to tell us the truth.
Right. And then Zell says, "I guess Cypher's taking all the blame." And Quistis says, "The trial is over and the sentence has been carried out."
Good Lord.
But
That was fast.
Yeah.
Talk about a speedy trial. Was Cypher there for his own trial? I doubt it, because he was taken into the portal by the witch lady.
Right. But so right. So that's the thing that, again, I feel like on first viewing, I was very confused. Like, did she just take him to get executed or do whatever? Now we know, if we're going through even this time, right, that they don't have him. She does. But we know that they're kind of working together. And so, again, this is one of those things I feel like could just be made a lot clearer. And here's one thing that will, I guess, spoil just right now. Here, we had talked about this last time or do whatever. But just for clarity, Cypher is not dead.
Right.
And so a lot of this is, I feel like, unnecessarily confusing. But what it does lead us to this great conversation, but I feel like we kind of already did it before. But there's one important moment that we have to have for Squall out of all of it, right? Because essentially they get to this place, they reiterate a little bit, like, well, yeah, you attacked the president, come on. And Renoa's clearly feeling terrible about all of it, and Quistis is kind of trying to do a little bit of what she knows Squall's not going to do, and not entirely let her off the hook, but say Cypher was doing, he did himself. He don't think of it as him sacrificing himself for you and all this, because now Renoa's beating herself up. It's just Cypher did what he did, And Renoa reveals that she really liked him. She really, really liked Cypher. And we know they had this history, but we didn't really get into it. And this is kind of all we get right here. Selphie says, your boyfriend? And Renoa says, I don't really know. I think I was in love, but I wonder how he felt.
There's a part of me that does not want Renoa to like Cypher because he's a prick.
Yeah.
But at the same time, Quistis draws the connection between them. You're a resistance fighter.
Right.
Like you're fighting against this colonial military Galbadian power. You had to be prepared for the worst also. And so was Cypher. So there is a similarity between the two of them. Renoa is rebelling against the Galbadian takeover of timber that happened 17 years ago.
Right.
And Cypher is rebelling against whatever, society, garden, seed, being thought of as a child, whatever it is. We're not entirely sure. But there is that connection of he also was rebelling.
Right.
And so that she has some kinship with that, I think is interesting and almost obvious in a way. Like she comes to Garden asking for help, and Cypher is the one who also wants to rebel. So yes, of course, absolutely, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that she liked him, that she liked that rebellious spirit that might also want to come and fight against the Empire just to fight, had to have been appealing.
Yeah. She does name a couple of characteristics, too. She says he was always full of confidence, and he's smart. She said, just by talking to him, I felt like I could take on the world. And I could see that, too, that a certain amount of bravado, especially, again, back to your point of she was is a resistance fighter. And his, back at the landing of not wanting to stay put because those were the orders, but saying the action is there and I'm going to it. It's like, yeah, that would get you hyped up, right?
Yeah, I worry sometimes about confident and smart.
Yeah, that can be dangerous sometimes too, right? And so maybe there's something to Squall's self-doubt.
Caution.
Yeah.
Warranted caution, I would call it.
And she does say, it was a summer ago, and I was young. I was 16. I'm much older. I'm 17 now. But she just kind of trails off, going, I had lots of fond memories of him. And then Selphie says, Zell, you kind of hated Cypher, right? And Zell says, well, yeah, but he was from our garden. He was one of us. He even says, I want to get revenge for him. So now he's even acting like Cypher. And it's like his first thought is to get him back. That's kind of how they've been trained, I guess. And Quistis goes the other route. She says, I don't have any fond memories of him. I have seen some troubled children, but he was beyond troubled. maybe wasn't really a bad guy, but she kind of trails off. So, yeah, they're all just kind of... I do like that they're sitting with complicated feelings here of a person who's been highly antagonistic toward most of the team, but one person here really, really liked him. And it ultimately leads, though, to the most interesting part, to me at least, which is where Squall literally and figuratively gets really in his head about this. And I'm going to read his thought process the way I think it is occurring in his head. He says, I liked him. He wasn't really a bad guy. It was one of us. Cypher, you've become just a memory. Will they talk about me this way if I die too? Squall was this and that, using past tense, saying whatever they want? So this is what death is all about? No, not for me. I won't have it. Ooh, man.
Yeah.
That is a deep, uncomfortable dread that, again, back to his notion of don't rely on others, don't have others rely on you, and you'll never be hurt. But now he's taking it to this, I don't want a room full of my friends grieving for me. I'm putting up a bigger wall. Like, ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. And he runs out of the room like a child. He even gives voice to that last thing. He says, I won't have it. I'm not having anyone talk about me in the past tense.
So you know how when someone famous dies and we talk about what they stood for or what they wanted or what they believed, and now they're not there to say it themselves?
Right.
That can be a heck of a thing.
Right.
Because maybe whomever is speaking on behalf of the dead is correct, but it does seem strange to say, oh, he was such a great guy. He only ever wanted the best for whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Then as Squall leaves, he actually runs into Raijin and Fujin, Cypher's lackeys, who have some convoluted reason for being here. Actually, I think they had a message from Headmaster Sid. But again, not really important. The long and short of this scene is basically they refuse to accept that Cypher is dead and they're going to go off and look for him.
Right.
There's this thing that happens a couple of times here where you're like paged over the loudspeaker at the school, which is just like the most school thing ever. Team from Balam, please meet at the gate. Team from Balam, you are needed at the gate. You're just like,
we have we got a new PA system a couple of years ago, so it used to be like a long, loud beep. It was like beep.
You're right.
Bum 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 bum.
Which is probably a lot better and a little dystopian.
It is much gentler, but it feels very, please comply.
Yeah, right? Like the voice is going to come on and say, hello, children. Please make your way to the educational facility room. Please make your way to the educational facility room.
When we were at that concert, that Final Fantasy concert in Denver a few months back, and the fire alarm went off right before the last song.
Right.
It was a very gentle fire alarm. Almost the exact same message.
Yeah.
A fire has... may I have your attention, please? Yeah. May I have your attention, please? Yeah. A fire has been detected in the building. Please make your way to the nearest exit.
It's that moment in Spirits Within when he says, I think we should proceed to the nearest evacuation facility.
Exactly. Because you don't want to stoke a panic. But it's also... Wait, a fire? Is this how we talk about fires in the building?
Anyway, so we proceed to the front gate as instructed by the mostly gentle, not at all creepy voice that I'm imagining in my head. Because again, this is a silent film. And here we are introduced to the headmaster of Galbadia Garden, a man named, for all of the Gabriel Iglesias fans out there, Martín! If you're not a fan, I apologize. So Martín says, to the drum beat of the official military music that happens when people are saying stuff like this, which happens a lot in this game. Good day. I have official orders from Headmaster Sid addressed to you. Following regulations, I have gone over these orders. After careful consideration of our options, we have decided to fully assist and cooperate with Headmaster Sid. All right, excellent.
Good.
In order to stress the importance of this mission, I must first brief you on the current situation. And they're all standing there saluting, and during this, by the way, Renoa is like pretending to be Seed,
Right.
which is super cute. There's all these little subtle movements where she's just behind everyone, so when he tells them at ease, she takes a second to like unsalute, and it's great. He says, you all know about the sorceress being appointed as the peace ambassador for the Galbadian government. However, this ambassador thing is just a cover-up. There will be no peace talks, only threats. The sorceress creates fear among the people. Peace talks are impossible. Galbadia is planning to use fear to negotiate favorable conditions for itself. It is clear that Galbadia's ultimate goal is world domination. Oh, that old thing.
Yeah, of course.
And this is when he sort of clarifies what you were talking about earlier, which, again, I wish in the original game, which is a little clearer up front. But he says Garden is no exception either. So they're going to use us basically as their home base. And we don't want to do that. So we entrust world peace and the future to you.
Oh.
Oh.
No pressure.
Then he hands over the orders.
Bannon saying to Terra,
Yeah.
You're the only hope to stop the war between, the Gestalian Empire and everybody else.
Right. Remember, they're 17.
Right.
Well, Quistis is 18,
Lord.
so she can get them all into the R-rated movie. Anyway.
I remember getting you and your friends into The Last Samurai.
Yeah. It's a good movie. And then Squall speaks up and say, the orders say, by means of a sniper. And I love that, because even through that line, if you're quick, you're like, wait, what are we doing with
Why do we need a sniper?
by means of a what do snipers do, though? There's only one thing you need a sniper for. Is he carrying out the lunch order? Like, I don't think so. And so he mentions that we have no one with that skill. And then Martine says, don't worry about it, let me introduce an elite sharpshooter from Galbadia Garden, Kineas, Irvin Kineas.
Yeah. I like this dude.
Yeah? Are you sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mostly. He reminds me of is Gambit from the X-Men.
I 100% imagine that is his voice. So whenever I do his lines, it'll be that voice, for sure. I do like his character design. He's got some problematic, Edgar style.
Yeah.
Just not okay the way he talks about and treats the women in the story.
Yeah, that's not the part I enjoy, I guess.
Right.
Though the fact that he gets shot down over and over again is helpful.
Right. Yeah, fair enough. I do think that my biggest frustration with Irvin is, I think with like a lot of these characters, there was just potential for there to be a really, really interesting character here. And he gets a moment, one really great moment. Well, actually, I'll say he gets two really great moments in this story for me. But other than that, like a lot of the side characters, he's not on the front cover of the box for a reason, too. So that's,
Fair enough. Yep.
He doesn't get a ton of development. But he looks awesome, right? He's got the black cowboy hat, the long, like, tan kind of Western-style trench coat. Rifle looks like it's made of wood.
It's got a wooden stock.
Yeah.
Shoulder stock. But it's sort of an Old West-style looking rifle.
Right. I also find it interesting that more than maybe any other character that I can think of in the franchise's history, certainly to this point, maybe really generally ever, they make a big deal of his last name. Like, they call him by his last name semi-regularly. He's introduced with it. That's the first thing we hear. Kineas. Irvin Kineas. I don't know, is he James Bond or something? What are we doing there? But it's odd because as you and I have talked about, a lot of times their last names are things you would only know if you looked like in the booklet. Remember booklets? Remember them? If you had the strategy guide or something. Like even now, Leonhardt becomes kind of a thing in this story as well. But to this point, no one has said the name Squall Leonhardt out loud. I don't believe. We haven't made a big deal of Cloud Strife in the past. The sixth last names basically don't matter at all.
Right.
And so I don't know why with this one character, because again, like the next line of dialogue, Squall refers to him that way. He says, all right, our next mission, everybody. It's a direct order from VIII Garden to Galbadia Garden. We are to assassinate the sorceress.
Ooh.
And then he says, Kineas will be our sharpshooter. We are to support Kineas to our fullest. Like, what? I don't know what this is. And I kind of like it, but again, it's one of the, like you said, a deliberate decision. I don't 100% know why, but it is one thing that makes him stand out a little bit.
I kind of felt like it was meant to distance him from the rest of the group so far, because they all call each other by first name,
Right.
which is a little more familiar. And sometimes in anime, you'll have characters who they will call each other by last name until they become more familiar, and then they'll say, call me by my first name.
Sure.
And I wonder if that's part of it also. Like, all these other folks were in the same garden, sort of. I mean, Selphie wasn't at first, but then she was. They know each other a little better. They're already a little more familiar with each other, or making that assumption, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're not with Irvin yet. And I think that also, like even Renoa,
Yeah.
because she is so familiar, I think they become familiar with her.
Yeah.
And there's a difference in Irvin that will become important later.
Right. That's a good point. I think it does very effectively, and even if subconsciously, let us know that he's not one of them.
Right. I mean, he is in a way, but there's a distinct difference, right?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Ah, that's actually incredibly fascinating. And obviously something we will come back to. A lot of what happens next bugs me, like I was just talking about, because this is when like he can decide to try to put himself into a party with just Renoa and Selphie, and you can't actually let him do that, and then they'll like grab onto his arms, and Squall and Zell, or at least Squall will act kind of, or Zell will act kind of jealous, and it's just like, what are we doing? Why? I don't know, but I tell him no.
Oh yeah, me too.
I'm keeping you away from the women folk.
Irvin, Squall, and Zell go in one party.
That's right.
Quistis, Renoa, and Selphie go in another.
That's right. And then it's time to get back on the train and head to Delling City. And then there's more weird kind of goofiness where it seems like maybe Selphie is starting to fawn over Irvin a little bit. But
he is very handsome.
He's
and again,
very
confident,
cute.
right?
That's true. Yeah.
Handsome and confident.
Yeah.
Again, kind of a dangerous combination if you're not careful.
Right. He gives this little speech about what a badass he is. I mean, about what a lone wolf snipers have to be. And there's a real thing to this, right? Like live my life entirely through one bullet in one moment. I'm defined by, everything else leads up to this. And in that moment, you're completely alone. And then it's like, oh, damn, he is Smokey, isn't he? All right. Okay. So you take the train to Delling City. And this is, again, one of those things that I think is so awesome about Final Fantasy VIII, because Squall and Renoa and Quistis and them have never been here before, at least not in the course of the story. Maybe they have years ago or whatever, and we wouldn't know that. But right, we haven't been here with them, but we have been here. We recognize this place because we were here with Laguna. And Squall actually thinks on this upon arriving and says, oh, right, this is where Laguna's from. I wonder if he's here. And just kind of lets it go, right? And you're just like, cool, what? And it just puts the little nugget in the back of your head of like, is there a chance we're going to meet Laguna?
Right. So it's definitely not a different world. Even if it's a dream world, it is a dream world about this world.
Right. I will say, again, I'm probably giving some things away here by pointing it out, but we do try to analyze these things. If you're paying really close attention, the vehicles are different.
Right.
And so that lets you know that, again, that's a hint that what's happening with Laguna isn't at the same point in time of the story that we're in. And so there's this kind of elaborate bus system running around town that I absolutely love. You can just kind of hop on the bus and just ride around and see, and it gives the feeling of a much larger city in terms of scope, which is really cool. and it can take you to all the different districts. But it's made clear that you've got to go up to Caraway's mansion because that is your contact point for this mission. As echoes, perhaps, of the rich people mansions from Final Fantasy VI.
Mm-hmm.
A bit aggravatingly, when you do arrive at the gates of the mansion, the guard will send you on a fetch quest. This is one of those things that I think, remember?
Yeah, this is much more about, like you said, going on a fetch quest, getting a particular guardian force.
Right.
It's not really about the story, but he sends you off to the tomb of the whatever to get the Minotaur brothers' guardian force.
It is called the Tomb of the Unknown King, which I feel like is ripe for a little Final Fantasy 15 crossover possibility,
Ooh.
if we wanted to. But yeah, it's a whole side quest we're not going to go through because as fun and neat and as great as the music is and the Guardian Force is really cool, it has no bearing on the plot whatsoever.
Right. It is kind of neat that there are some, it looks like garden cadets trying to go through the tomb also, and they're running away. And
right.
They give you a hint about, because they're earth-based, so if you cast float, I guess that helps you out.
Right.
You do get the correct, I think it's a 3-digit code. The guard will, and it's different every time, so you can't just know what the code is.
Which is clever.
So you'll be led into the mansion, and you'll be taken to a room. And Squall has an internal thought. Both Balaam and Galbadia are joining forces with the General Caraway. But why? And then he says, or in his head, he thinks, no point in me thinking about it. Seeds aren't meant to question why.
Mm.
And now I'm back to that teenagers with attitude conversation we were having about Power Rangers.
Right.
I think Sid does want you to question why, Squall.
Yeah.
And then Renoa says out loud, is my contract still in effect? Because remember, the contract is until Timber has its freedom. So, yeah, I think it is.
Right.
She says, Squall, don't leave me in this house, okay? And Squall says, you should know. Just tell us what to do and we'll do it. She's reassured by that. Good.
Right. Okay.
Don't leave me in this house. They're all taken to this room and they're made to wait, and Renoa's sort of pacing back and forth, and eventually she says, he always does this. So discourteous, making people wait. I'm going to go complain. Everyone just wait here. So Renoa's going to go complain to the manager. You all wait here.
Oh, boy.
And how does she know that General Caraway always does this?
Right.
So everyone else stays here, and Renoa leaves the room.
And then just a few moments later, she pokes her head back in and she says, oh, by the way, this is my house, so don't worry. What? That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. See you next time.